All right. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Most Excellent Entertainment Podcast. I'm your host, Keith. And with us this week, we have two members of the Christian Shields Band. We have Christian Shields, the man himself, and Marshall Benson, his amazing guitar player. I want to welcome you guys to the podcast and thank you all for coming.
Thank you for having me and having us.
Thank you. Yeah, glad to be here.
Awesome. So, I picked up Christian CD about 5 years ago or so when it first came out because a buddy of mine was helping him with Facebook promotion and stuff like that. And I listened to it and I was blown away because honestly, like, I'm 51. I'm supposed to be into this kind of music. But you don't hear a lot of younger bands these days with the commitment to like play good 80s style rock and roll. So what was it that got you into that kind of music, and why did you decide to play that style of music, man?
You want to go first, Marshall?
No, this is definitely a Chris question.
Well, for me, I grew up on classic rock. I've always been a classic rock fan, and it's mostly 70s influence, not necessarily stuff from the 80s per se, but I just grew into liking bands from that era, via, Kiss and Zeppelin and all that, all the bands from that era.
Yeah, and for me, I mean, I'm a lead guitar player, but I really got into the virtuoso players. So like late 80s, early 90s, Joe Satriani and Steve Vai, Steve Lukather, Dave Meniketti. Sorry, the cats are just trying to get into the frame here. Anyway, but I didn't really get into like the classic rock, late 70s, early 80s stuff that Chris is talking about.
Come here, Gibson.
Yeah, we're just moving out of the way.
You're gonna move the cat out of the way.
I didn't really get into that. Chris actually introduced me to a lot of it. But since I studied the instrumental rock guitar and virtuoso guitar players, that stuff was just right in my wheelhouse as far as playing leads and solos and stuff. I mean, Chris is a great rhythm guitar player and singer, but his rhythm playing is excellent. So he would play these riffs and it would just immediately make sense to me what kind of leads would work over that. So that's how the project came together between the two of us.
Awesome. Yeah, one thing that I noticed when I saw you guys live, I saw you in Harrison, Ohio at the Blue Note right before the Spirit of '89 tour ended, was how close the live sound was to the sound on the CD. I mentioned it to you guys, like the harmonies. I was wondering how you guys were going to make those vocals work, and you do it with 3-part harmony, which is amazing to see live. Were you worried about being able to duplicate that sound when you were doing it in the studio, or did you know it was something you could pull off?
Well, when we recorded it, it's a lot of vocal stacks in the studio. So
Yeah.
a lot of it's basically is just a 3-part harmony in the studio. I mean, some of it's just even like a 2-part, maybe some are even 4-part, but you basically, the way we did the stacks is you would record, the melody, 2 harmonies, then you would double all that, and then you would record either an octave below or an octave higher to thicken it up even more. But, as long as we do the 3-part harmony, the main, meat of it, the meat of the chord, it sounds great. And that's what we worked on. We did a lot of a cappella rehearsal to make sure that we really nailed those parts to give it the power and, what it needs.
Yeah, and we're looking for a bass player. One of the requirements is that he could sing well. But to answer your question more directly, a lot of times when we're doing a live adaptation of those harmonies, I would just pick an interval that worked for my range, that sounded good with the lead, and then typically the bass player will take the higher part so that it's a nice 3-part harmony. And we just kind of workshop it in rehearsal and get it to where it sounds good with our voices and our timbre, because on the record, it's all Christian's voice in vocal stacks. So it's all that one timbre. So might not necessarily work for me to try to do that. Instead, we just figured out tones and intervals that worked for our voices in the live adaptation.
Nice. So have you been Have you guys been working together from the beginning, or did you put together a touring band, or how did that all work?
Well, when I started putting this project together, I wanted to play with him. He was in another band, and we met because I was like engineering their EP because at the studio. But he's an amazing guitar player. I call him my favorite guitar player because he is. There's just something about the way he plays. So when my other band ended, and I started going down, the path of putting this together, I said, there's only one person I want to play, and it's Marshall Benson, because I knew that the styles would complement each other really well, and it would bring it to new heights.
Nice, nice.
Yeah, and then it was the two of us in the beginning. And it was just really funny for me because, like Chris is saying, I was in a different band, but it was a pop punk band. But my style, like I said, it's like a lot of shredding and lead type of work. So it didn't really, I mean, it was cool, and pop punk is kind of unusual, but that wasn't really where I was supposed to be, as far as the style of my playing. So I think Chris heard me playing and was like, "Well, geez, I mean, this is like the perfect guitar player for me." And then we found a couple guys, more guys locally, Rom, the drummer, and Jake, the bass player. But as far as that first record is concerned, it's pretty much just Chris and I, as far as the live musicians were concerned. And then we added the two members afterwards once we started playing.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, that's awesome.
I just remembered I'm missing a piece. What I actually saw was he was doing a cover online of Hotel California solo. When I saw him play that, I was seeing him because he played the solo pretty much exact, but then he added like an extra part. And I was just like, oh, and that was part of it. I literally forgot about it till just this moment. So I was like, yeah, he's right.
Awesome.
I didn't hear him really play any of that style of leads when he was working on that First Year Fight EP. And then I just realized that it's like, oh, it was the video. I remember it now.
Yeah, I didn't know that actually. Yeah, but
Cool.
that's cool. Yeah. I mean, unfortunately that video was taken down because I had the Eagles track playing in the background, so it got taken off. I don't know how people do cover videos. I guess they make like a backing track that's similar, and then they'll play over it to avoid it getting taken down.
Yeah, I don't know how any of that works. I have a buddy who actually cut a CD with a death metal version of Hakuna Matata as a bonus track, and he didn't list it, so I don't know if he even like paid royalties on it. I think because it wasn't listed, like a lot of people don't even know it's on there. So I don't know if he like did something illegal, but Paul.
Well, I think it's probably some type of licensing stuff. You probably have to set up something on the back end of your peripherals for Facebook or whatever to have it, but it's a pain in the ass.
I follow these music attorney accounts now because they have really
Oh,
interesting
nice.
things to say about that. And I just saw a clip where they were talking about Spotify, for example, has a licensing deal with record companies that covers artists who want to do covers. That's why
Interesting.
you don't need, as an artist, if I want to put a cover on Spotify, I don't need to go talk to the record company independently and work out my own deal with the artist I'm covering. Spotify actually handles that and does it for you essentially. Same thing with YouTube and Facebook, and sometimes you might get it taken down if there's no specific deal or there's some exclusion, but by and large that's the distributor works out a deal with the record companies for that.
Right on. That's interesting. It's funny because I was actually just thinking about stuff like this last night because First to 11, I don't know if you guys know who they are, but they just put out a new video. It's a cover of Cherub Rock. They're like this really talented band that only plays covers, and they do like national tours and stuff.
Yeah.
And I always wondered how they did that. I'm like, how can you make any money when all you're doing is playing other people's songs? But I guess there's a way to figure it out.
Well,
And they have hundreds of
there's a
thousands of
licensing thing. There's a
Yeah.
licensing thing that you have to get. If you do online distribution through like DistroKid or something,
Sure.
they ask you when you upload a song, is the song an original composition or is it a cover? And if it's a cover, you have to purchase an additional distribution license, and then they handle all the legal stuff for you.
Oh, interesting. Cool. I mean, I guess that's one good thing about the whole streaming thing. It's funny when we have people come on, everybody kind of goes back and forth between whether or not streaming is a good thing or a bad thing. Because I talk to a lot of people who've been in the music business for a long time, and they all have different views on it. Um, I think the fact that it's so easy to get your music out really is a positive thing. But personally, I love physical media. I have 5,000 CDs, so
Well, I think streaming is just it's a preference, but I think if you look at like, in the music business, there's a word that everybody forgets. They forget the word business. And you like with any entity or anything over time, you need to evolve. If you don't evolve, you die off. It's just so streaming is the new way that the fans and the listeners is how they consume music. It's how they consume the medium. So yeah, you can reminisce about, good old days of selling records or whatever, but this is the thing. And obviously, Keith, you like physical media, which is great.
yeah,
But I think streaming is the way to go because the barrier to entry is low for people to check out an artist that they like. Whereas before, if you heard a song that you liked on the radio, you had to buy a whole record, you know? So it's the evolution of the medium. So this is what we have to work with.
And
yeah.
what's interesting is we were talking to a distributor recently, and he kind of made us realize that, oh, by the way, physical media still exists.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, it might be 95% online streaming, but physical media still exists. It's still a market. And for the right sized artist and the right sized distributor, you can both do quite well with the right arrangement. And
Yeah,
it's another avenue that smaller or medium sized artists shouldn't shut out because people still do buy records. Is it the level of what it used to be? Of course not. But it's one of multiple different ways of trying to get income coming in for an artist, for an independent artist.
Agreed.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I had some of the guys who come on, you get a bigger chunk of a physical sale. So even if you only you'll sell way less, but you'll get more out of it in the long run. But then
Right.
I had the bass player Ronnie Barnett from the Muffs on the other day, a couple weeks ago, and he was saying that he gets a check every month from Spotify, and that in the '90s when he was on a record label, he didn't get a check every month. So I mean,
It's more
good.
consistent.
Yeah,
Okay, that's interesting to hear.
Yeah, and then with streams though, if you're doing volume, you can make you can make money, and also but then the other flip side is that you have no cost of physical distribution. You don't have to physically make product, so
Mhm.
it's I think it just boils down to it's another tool. So
yeah,
however you use the tool is how you use it,
right,
So
right. And I think one of the we'll get off this in a second. I'm just fascinated by the whole shift in the business and stuff. But I think one of the big positives about streaming too is like there's so many bands where I knew one song but had no idea who the band was, and like I'm finding out, I'd find out years later, oh, it was that band. Whereas like with streaming, you can do a search for a song and find the artist and see their whole catalog.
Right.
So that's a really cool aspect of it too. Um,
or
you,
whatever catalog they have available too, because some
on
people
streaming, yeah,
some people won't upload their whole catalog, or if there's a licensing dispute, whoever owns the rights or the masters. But generally, most of everything is on there. Yes.
sure, sure. So, um, I mentioned earlier that I saw you guys on the Spirit of '89 tour. How did that come about, man? Because that's a pretty big national tour, um, with some pretty big acts, like and they're really established. How did they pick you guys to be the openers, like for
Well,
that?
I know PJ. I had met him because a friend of mine plays in a band called the Nocturnal Affair, and they would tour with Fozzy a lot. So
Hmm.
I went to see them play. I went to see Fozzy play here in Austin and my friend's band, and he introduced me to PJ. This was back in 2022, and then I said, "Hey PJ, if you ever need an opener, I would love to open for Trickster." And he said, "Yeah, man, we'll talk about it." And then probably in September of last year, I was just having a casual conversation to him and with him, and I mentioned it to him again, and he said, "Yeah, man, I'll see what we can do." And then in December, they asked us to be a part of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome, man. And how were the crowds on those tours? Because I mean, obviously, most of the fans wouldn't know you guys going in. They're there to see
Mhm.
the Trickster and Enough's Enough and whatnot. But how did you guys find the reception?
Oh, we went over gangbusters. We won
Yeah,
over so many people. They loved it, and that was exactly our intention. We went out there and we kicked ass every night. That's what we did.
oh
Yeah,
yeah,
and a lot of people checked us out beforehand because when the
right.
promo comes out and they see us on the promotion, they're like, "Oh, who is that band?" And so they'll look. So some of the more hardcore, music lovers will check us out before. So it wasn't, wasn't that people were necessarily totally naive. There was some excitement building around the fact that there is this new band on the bill.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, the type of response that I was seeing was really pretty enthusiastic.
Yeah, I know when I saw you guys in Harrison, I think there was me and a guy and like two girls when you first started playing, and eventually the area in front of the stage got pretty full, man.
Mhm.
Because you guys came out and just ripped it up, and it's hard to sit still, you
Thank
know.
you.
So
Thank you. Yeah, we really focus on the physical aspect of the live show. We
mhm.
move around a lot. We headbang. We go across the stage. We have choreo. It's not really like design choreography, but just things we do every show where we'll like I'll go next to the bass player and we'll kind of lunge down or we'll put our guitars up in the air. And we're just not one of those bands that is static. We like to move and give you something to look at. So I think, it's the combination of, plus I can say it, we're all pretty good musicians. So between Christian's great singing, Rom's powerful drums, and then, the bass player and my lead guitar, we're delivering, good performances that are also very physical. And I think especially for people who haven't seen the band before, you have to give them something to respond to. You want to give them something for their ears as well as their eyes. And I would almost argue that the eyes are, more important in a lot of cases. We talk about this all the time, how people listen with their eyes.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, well
definitely.
said, Marshall. I couldn't have said it better.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I come from a pro wrestling background as well as a music background, and that's something that they teach in wrestling too, like
Like
big movements.
big
You don't do
movements.
small
Yeah.
things because people can't see them. You do the big movements, and that's what people react to. So,
Yeah, and the weird thing about the stage, and you probably know this with wrestling too, is especially when you first start performing, your your movements on stage are gonna feel bigger than they actually are. Because
yeah,
if you feel all this attention on you, you feel people looking at you. So you think like a little twitch or a little move here and there feels big. It's not. You really have to make those big movements for people to even see it.
You
yeah,
got to play to the back of the room.
yeah, 100%, man, 100%. So, Marshall, you mentioned that you're like you studied like virtuosos
Right.
like Steve Vai and Joe Satriani and those fellas. You're playing. I mean, we talked about this, so it feels a little weird to talk about it again. But for the people who weren't there to hear the conversation, your playing is so tasteful, man. Like, um, I feel like you put everything right where it belongs in the song.
Thank you so
Um,
much.
you're welcome. And I was just, how is it hard for you to not just go off and like show what you can do, sort of thing, or I mean, how do you balance that?
Well, certainly, I mean, since I was a teenager, I'm always ready for those moments and looking for them where the band leader is going to point to me and go, solo, just shred. But there's never been a time where I really like to do just kind of mindless, arpeggios and sweep picking and all the really flashy stuff. Because what got my attention as a kid were very melodic players.
Mhm.
So, Gary Moore is a good example. Joe Satriani is like my idol in this sense because his playing is it's almost vocal and lyrical
Mhm.
in its
Yep.
quality. If you're able to sing the parts and it's a good catchy part, that's a great guitar part. So, but to answer your question too, I mean, all those lead parts and solos were written in the studio section by section, like a composition. They were composed, and everything is deliberate and methodical. So, I think, with the producer Kevin Gutierrez, he helped me with this a little bit, but I wrote all the parts. I mean, you think about it in terms of energy. So when you're playing a solo, you kind of want to start slow and then build up the energy. You want to add momentum over time. As an example, you don't come out with guns a-blazing. Sometimes
Right.
that's appropriate, sometimes, but if you are more methodical and you listen to a really good guitar solo that you love and you break down, okay, what's happening with the speed and the phrasing, and the other thing I like to do is this is sort of a jazz idea where you introduce a melody in the beginning of the song, like the head, right? They say the
Yes.
head in jazz. You'll play a melody in the beginning, and then you recall it later. You might
Right.
have it in the middle of the solo, at the end of the solo, and then you play it definitely again at the end of the song. And that's that melodic repetition that people grab onto and they're like, oh, I've heard that before. And then I'll add little variations to it. Maybe we'll add Chris in and he'll play like a harmony with me
Mhm.
of that same melodic idea. And I think that's really what separates me from other guitar players in this realm. It's like
Yeah.
they just come from this era where they want to blow you away with speed and technique. And it's been 40 years of that. And
Right.
obviously I'm not trying to down anyone. I'm just trying to differentiate myself in a way where, I can have some sort of unique voice or something that people are responding to that's not
Mhm.
just pure speed because you can't win that game. That's just a game you're never gonna be able to
Right.
win at. So I don't even try. Instead, I try to be a little bit more creative and write parts that are memorable that you could sing to.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, honestly, as a kid growing up on hard rock, like that was the kind of music that I was drawn to. Like as far as Joe Perry,
Yeah,
um, Slash,
right.
guys who played within the song. I wasn't a big fan of like, and no, no, but like CC DeVille and guys like that who felt like they were wanking off on the guitar. Well, it just wasn't my thing. So yeah, dude, I totally respect your playing, man. I was blown away when I saw you live. It was a really cool experience. So
Thank you. And the other thing is, I feel like with those kinds of parts, they don't get old, or
yeah,
hopefully they don't. Like you can hear them over and over again and be like, it's still so good, you know.
yeah, for sure.
Whereas
That,
those, whereas playing that doesn't have as much of a context, where it just feels like it's been a technique that's been grafted into the song. There's nothing really like memorable about it, and you don't enjoy it the same way over and over. So it's
yeah.
really shooting for as much as possible a timeless piece of music that people are gonna enjoy for a long time to come, hopefully.
Definitely. So, Christian, as far as your voice, was this the most consecutive nights that you've done on this tour? Um, do you think, or I mean, it's because you guys were out there playing almost every night. It seems like,
We did it. We were doing 5 shows in a row.
yeah,
It's pretty much the most I've done. I think maybe no, I don't want to say 6. We've done 5 in a row.
okay,
It was more or less just not talking over loud music. Like I know the fans want to talk, but it's like, hey, we'll talk afterwards. And
right,
I just, made sure I warmed up every night. You should warm up anyway. But then
yeah,
like if there was any night my voice was feeling a little shredded, we'll just say,
right.
and I would do like this vocal, cool down exercises, which seems like, well, if your voice is shredded, why do you do it? And it's more or less, it's almost like stretches for the muscles to get them back in position. So that way, the next morning when you wake up, you'll be fine. But I had no issues. I didn't lose my voice or anything.
Awesome. Yeah, I saw you guys, like I said, the night before the last night, and you sounded great. So I was just wondering how you maintained that over the course of the tour.
And also no drinking or
Yeah,
smoking.
he doesn't drink or
Sure.
smoke
No,
at all.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Also,
It's
yeah,
funny,
like you said, avoiding yelling.
right?
People want to talk to you and it's loud but then you'll have to yell. So if you're yelling and drinking, it just absolutely shreds your voice.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. One of
Yeah.
the things like that I noticed on the CD, and you really duplicated it live, like on your like smoother voice, you sound like you sound a bit like Don Dokken, and then on your like more raspy stuff, you sound like Dean Davidson a little bit, and it's a really cool combination. And to see you pull that off live was really really cool because I wasn't sure. You know, some guys you get there and they can't do that stuff, but you kicked ass, man. So it was
Well,
really cool.
it was a lot of practice and all that stuff, and it's just it's technique, and you have to learn proper technique. Your voice is an instrument, um, and you just you got to make sure you do it properly because obviously with the rasp, you can strain your voice,
Yeah.
and like I'm never hoarse after I sing, and if I get like my voice gets tired, I don't push it. So
Right on, man. Yeah,
even though
that's
he says
awesome.
like I don't yell, some people would argue. I would say this. They're like, "Oh, why does he sing so like hard or like loud?" And it's like it's not yelling, it's projection, and
Mhm.
that's part of technique as well. Because
For sure.
you should never sing from your throat. If you're singing from your throat, you're doing it wrong.
Right. Yeah, you gotta push from the diaphragm, as they say.
Yeah, sing from your toes. That's
Yeah,
all I say. Sing from your toes.
right on, man. So, you guys just had a successful Kickstarter campaign, which it was to produce a video for your new single. And I will say, from supporting Kickstarter campaigns and also creating them for a movie that I'm working on, it's really hard to get support for those campaigns that where you're making like an art project as opposed to something that you can ship to people. So do you want to talk a little bit about the campaign and the success of it and what's next for that?
Well, so the campaign has ended, and we smashed our funding goal. We actually raised 127% of the funding goal. So basically, we
Oh yeah.
asked for five, we raised 6,300. If I got to send you the link, Keith, because for the
Oh,
video. I don't think you got it, but like the video's done. So right now it's behind a wall for the Kickstarter backers. We're aiming to release it to the general public August, September ish. But right now we're just waiting on the physical production of the t-shirts and stuff, which is in production now, and then I'll get everybody their physical rewards. But it was a big success. It's for a new single called Fall Like Rain. And we think you guys will enjoy it.
awesome. So is this a precursor to a new album, or is the plan right now to just release singles? Like, how's that gonna work out?
The plan is just to release singles. There's
Okay.
no talk of an album. Hopefully, after this one's out, we can start moving a little quicker with getting more singles out on a regular basis. But this first one, like I was just blown away by the response on the Kickstarter. So yeah,
Yeah, it started slow, man, but then I was like, holy crap, there are a lot of responses coming in, dude. It was pretty awesome to watch it. So
well,
It's
yeah,
great.
nice job.
It's great to have the support. That
Yeah.
when you have people who want to see you succeed, there's just really nothing better than that. It's a great feeling.
yeah. Slow and steady wins the race, though.
Hmm.
Heck yeah, man. So, have you gotten any new opportunities since coming off the Spirit of '89 tour? Because obviously you guys got some eyes on you off that
Yeah,
tour.
yeah. We have some. I don't want to comment on anything unless
Okay,
it's
all good.
announced publicly.
So,
Yeah.
so
Stuff
it's stuff in the works, but nothing.
Works.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just
Okay.
don't want to say anything because then if it falls through, then you end up with egg on your face. But yeah,
Yeah,
stuff
I've
in
been
the
there.
works. Yeah, we just
Yeah,
we will have a couple shows with Trickster and Pretty Boy Floyd in August. I can say that because two have been announced and there's more coming. But as far as anything past that, we have to kind of keep it close to the chest for now.
all good, man. All good.
We have been having discussions though with different pretty awesome people though. So
Hmm.
I will say that much. Yeah.
Good
Yes.
luck, man. That's awesome to hear, man. So, at the end, speaking of Trickster and Pretty Boy Floyd, and Enough's Enough, at the end of the show, you guys came out and jammed to Dirty Deeds, and there was probably 20 musicians on that freaking stage, dude.
Yeah.
So awesome. What
Absolutely.
was that like? Like that was
Oh,
massive.
chaos. You want to talk about it?
Oh, I mean, it's so fun. But
Yeah,
the things I think about when that's going on is there's so many guitar players and bass players on stage. You're just trying not to hit people with your headstock. You know what I mean? You have to be very conscious of like, you don't want to turn around and whack somebody. But
right.
I mean, in more serious terms, I've always wanted to do something like that
Yeah.
because it reminds me of a G3 show where you have a
Mm,
bunch of great lead guitar players trading solos and stuff like that and harmonizing and doing cool parts. I've always wanted to do that, and no bands ever want to because they're worried that if they don't rehearse beforehand that it's not going to work. But my attitude is just go up there and have fun. It's an easy song, just
right.
do it. And
Right.
that was more the attitude that, Trickster came with. They're just like, oh, yeah, come on up and you will just jam. It's cool. And, Chris got to take the lead vocal for that, and he
Yeah.
sounds great. The videos are great that came out from it.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting watching him because he usually has a guitar. But in
Right.
this case, he's just singing. So he's able to move around the stage and do these moves that I've never seen before and really focus on just delivering a great vocal performance. And I just love to see him in that capacity. I wish I could see him more. So that was super cool. And then of course the audience loves it because like
Yeah.
who wouldn't love, all the bands coming up and jamming together. It's a real treat for them. So I love that aspect of it too, just seeing the surprise look on their face when everybody comes out. I mean, it just doesn't happen often enough these days. Shows these days are so regimented and things
Mm,
have to happen in a certain way. But what's the point of live music is like a good portion of it is the spontaneity and seeing the stage chemistry, and especially between musicians who normally wouldn't play together. You want it, the audience wants to see that type of interaction and some level of spontaneity. If you want regimented, just listen to the record at home. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
some aspect of live where anything can happen, that's and getting some of that every night is like just really exciting for everybody, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I was psyched when you guys did it. The first concert I ever went to was Cinderella Winger and Bullet Boys,
Mhm.
and they came out and did like jammed on some Rolling Stones songs at the end. And I thought that was going to happen at every concert I went to, and it did not. I was like, oh man, I thought they did
I
all-star
just
jams
think
every
why
time.
not? Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, why not? I think more bands should do it all the time. It should be a standard thing to happen. Honestly, should.
right, right. And I
Some
mean,
people
it
get too
builds.
uptight. They're like, "Oh no, I don't know. I want to make sure that this is rehearsed." It's just like, come on, you just have fun. That's all the
Yeah,
audience wants to see, man.
yeah,
But they are forgiving of mistakes, especially if they know there's a spontaneous aspect to it.
Mhm.
right. And I mean, that was the whole thing. It looked so fun, and I
Well,
think
it was fun. We
everybody in
had a
the crowd was
blast.
having fun. Yeah. It's
Because I
funny
was,
because my buddy was like, there's three drummers up there, four drummers up there, and I was like, yeah, dude, one of them's just carrying around a tambourine. Like, it was so cool just watching everybody do their thing, man. I
yeah,
dug
yeah.
it a
I
lot.
will say the first couple times, the first two or three shows, the jam was a little bit, it wasn't quite as coordinated
Mm,
because there was some back and forth about, okay, who's going to take the solo, who's going to sing, do we split the solo up into one, I'll take the front and you take the second. And, the first time we did it, that one of the guitar players didn't know what key the solo was in. He's like, "Oh, what key was that in?"
oh, that's awesome.
But by, the middle of the tour, we were just, nailing it every night.
Yeah, I was gonna say the one I saw, it was tight, dude. It was like
Oh, yeah.
it was thunderous, man. Like it was, yeah. So you could tell you guys had been doing it at least a few nights, but it was fun, man.
Yeah, we,
Uh,
we had a lot of fun.
yeah, and I liked when Chip would take the center of the stage and just what did he do? Just the dirty deeds part, or I
Yeah,
know,
he
yeah,
would
yeah.
just
He
sing
would
the
just
chorus. That's
and
it.
just stand there. You know what I mean? Like a because it's boom, boom, and he just so it was cool. I loved it. I thought visually it was amazing, and it
There was
sounded great. So
a show in San Diego, I think, they brought a fan up on stage
Wow.
sing one of the verses.
Yeah, it was in
was that
San
a
Diego.
fan?
That was San Diego. Yeah.
Yeah, and he
Yeah.
sounded great.
Oh, it was
I
great.
mean,
Nice.
that was so I was like, who is that guy? It's like somebody that Steve Brown knew, or maybe he just got his attention and pulled him up on stage.
Right.
Like I said,
Yeah.
anything can happen when you have those jam sessions, man.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially like in an intimate setting like that, you know? And I think, I mean, seeing bands in big arenas and stuff is always cool, but man, when you're that close to it and you can feel the music, it's really, really cool to experience.
One thing I'm trying to focus on more is eye contact and
Mhm.
getting, people who are in the front row and they really want to get your attention and have that moment with you, like just giving them that moment,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
that it's fun too to see them taking their phones out and recording when you're playing a solo. They're like, wow, that whole interaction is just a blast.
Yeah, I can't remember which band it was, but someone in the crowd kept on trying to play the bass player's bass. And he
Yeah.
looked at her. It was a chick, and he looked at her and he goes, "I can't."
I
It
can't
was
just
so
give you my
funny. Dude.
bass.
Just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
it's like,
that's a
oh, let
whole
me
new
try it.
level of trust. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
you better be able to play
you
this.
gotta,
Don't mess
gotta
this
rock
up.
this thing, man. It's pretty funny. Um, but oh man, I'm trying to think. This has been such a blast, man. Uh, Marshall, do you play in other bands
I
still?
do. Yeah,
Okay, yeah, 'cause I was gonna
I
say
play
something about
in too
that.
many bands, really. Yeah,
Right.
I'm
But
in a band in Phoenix. I fly out to play with them. I'm in a local band here. That's an alternative rock band. I've got a recording project. Um, and I'm then like a fifth project that's like a post grunge, like a Creed crossfade type of sound. And I just like to stay busy,
right on, man.
but I was talking and I hear things here and there about how like singers, especially
What?
sometimes some singers are very like they want your loyalty, right? They
Yeah,
just want one guitar player who is just dedicated to them. But Chris lets me play in other groups, like he doesn't have to do that.
It doesn't
yeah,
interfere with the schedule.
But I'm just very careful about everything's on the calendar. And as soon as I know about something, I put it on the calendar and I make sure I just have good communication with all the groups that I'm in. And they all just, develop me in different aspects. And, it's getting to the point now where it actually helps my other projects because I'm recognized in different
yeah,
regions doing different things. And it improves the networking. So,
Yeah.
a promoter that I meet in one band, they find out about my other bands and they're like, oh,
right,
cool. Hey, why don't we get your other band over here because they know me? And that
right.
has started to happen. And I'm more than happy for that to happen. That's happened in Las Vegas, it's happened in Phoenix
Yep.
now, and
Yep.
and it's happened in Texas all over the place. So I think it's a good thing.
Yeah,
You just have to have good communication if you're gonna
for sure.
do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you how you worked that out on the tour, but you kind of answered my question. Just the
Well,
scheduling.
there was a really close call because the band in Phoenix that I play with, they got an opportunity to open up for Stone Temple Pilots in the middle of the
Ooh,
tour. And I was like, oh shoot, I can't say no to that.
yeah.
That's huge. It was a big outdoor amphitheater in Scottsdale during Bike Week. And Bike
Oh,
Week in Scottsdale is sort of like Sturgis, not quite as big, but you have tens of thousands of bikers coming through. And it's a multi-day festival and stuff. And I was really worried about this actually because I didn't want to have Chris lose a show or have to get a film
yeah,
fly someone out. And I really didn't want to say no to that, Stone Temple Pilots show either. And it just so happened that on one of our off days is when the STP show was. And I was just like, oh, thank God. So I actually flew out of Portland to play the show because we had a show in Portland. I flew out, a few hours after the show, played it, and then caught another flight the next morning into Salt Lake City to pick up back with the tour. And it all worked out.
Mhm.
You know, the
Awesome.
margins were pretty tight, but I made it happen.
Awesome.
And it was just
Yeah,
a
dude.
thrilling 48 hours for
I'm
sure.
sure. I'm sure, man. Yeah, it's funny because this could be completely wrong because I read it online, and I'm not going to even try to say his name because I'll butcher it, I'm sure. But the kid from Japan who
Yeah.
played with Enough's Enough the night that I saw you guys was also playing with Pretty Boy Floyd on some of the dates. Is that right?
No, that's incorrect. So,
Okay, I saw that online, so I wasn't
no,
sure if that was
yeah,
okay.
no, there was the guy Alex. He played with Jeff Tate. He played with Pretty Boy Floyd after Dizzy left, and
Oh,
then
okay.
and then
So it
Jake.
wasn't the same time or anything like that.
No,
No,
no, no.
Okay, so
You're
that
talking
was a
about
completely
Suzuki.
wrong
I think his
thing that I
name is
read.
Suzuki.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I was wondering about that. Like there was swapping of band members, but apparently that was just a bad.
I think it was kind of easy for people to get confused because Pretty Boy Floyd, you know, they had like three different guitar players throughout the tour, kind of
Ah, gotcha.
coming in and out, and then Enough's Enough had two different ones.
Okay,
So really, the only two, it was just Trickster and our band that had
right,
like a consistent lineup the whole time.
right on, right on.
So I can
I
see how
think
people trying to write
sort
about
of
it and
playing with
explain
who,
what's
yeah,
going on would probably get confused because there was a lot of lineup changes. Just people had to, you know, had other obligations. They could only do some dates and had to come off. And
right,
it was just pretty amazing to see, oh my God, this guy flew in from Japan to play, you know, a handful of dates with Enough's Enough. And
yeah,
he was great.
yeah. He was, yeah. I mean, dude, talk about guitar players who can play fast, man.
Seriously,
yes.
seriously fast. Yeah, I think Chips Enough likes the fast guitar players.
Yeah, yeah. And he
Yeah.
made the joke that he had just found out that when he was touring Japan back in the 80s he had a son. And that the guy was his son. Like that's what he said.
Oh.
He said he was just like illegitimate son, dude. It was freaking hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, I missed him saying that joke. I missed that. When you
Yeah.
said it on
Well, he
stage.
said it at the very least in Harrison. He said it
Oh,
from the stage. Yeah.
I missed that
Yeah,
too.
I
That's
missed
funny.
that. Okay.
It was pretty funny, man.
And he made
Um,
a couple of those jokes. He would make those jokes on stage. I mean, he cracks me up.
Yeah, he's funny.
yeah,
Chip's a
he's
funny.
a funny guy, dude. Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy how well with Trickster too, like all three of those guys have taken the lead vocals now.
Mhm.
And none of them were singing in the bands during their heyday. And I mean, I think they all sounded great. I think just opening the show with you guys and ending it with Trickster was pretty cool because your band is super tight and they were super tight. Like they sounded more like a classic power trio than they did in the '80s, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good time. So
Totally. I think it was a great matchup of
yeah, sure,
and
definitely.
everything. I think it really worked.
Yeah, me too, man. All right, well, fellas, is there anything that y'all want to talk about before we hop out of here? Anything coming up? Any where people should check y'all out? Anything like that?
Go to christianshields.net. It'll give you everything. We're on all social media, all platforms. Just Google Christian Shields. It'll come up. You want to talk
Yep.
about yours?
Oh, do you have a date for the music video to be released?
Uh,
And the
we, we,
single?
we gotta pick that.
Okay.
We're gonna have a discussion about that in a little bit actually because we gotta put the marketing together for all that. But like I said, it'll be August September because it's the last week of August. We're doing a whole tour thing leg with not it's not a whole leg, but we're doing some shows with Trickster. So it's just basically, are we gonna do that? We're gonna release it before that, or we're gonna release it after that. We just gotta make a decision.
Good deal. Good
Yeah.
deal. All right. Well, man, I want to thank you guys so much for coming on the show. Anybody who gets a chance, check these guys out live. Check out their music online. Um, if you like rock and roll, you will be impressed. I promise you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Marshall, I think you're my favorite guitarist now too, man. Honestly, like,
Very
dude,
nice of you to say.
yeah. I mean,
Right on.
I want him to be Earth's favorite guitar player.
dude, yeah, man.
I'll do my best to keep delivering for you.
I was gonna
guys.
say Texas, and I was like, no, that's too small. I was gonna say
yeah,
the United States. I was gonna say it's too small. North America's too small. So planet Earth,
This planet.
this planet's favorite guitar player. Maybe he might have to be Mars's favorite guitar player too if we get there.
There you go.
Dude, I mean, there might be life on Mars, according to David Bowie. So,
I'm up for it.
We'll see.
hell yeah,
It can happen, right?
absolutely. So yeah, thank you so much to Tyler Martin for producing this thing. Emmy Studios. We're close to 50 episodes, brother. So let's keep on doing that. And man, thank you to everyone who supports us every week and who checks us out. And we will be back next week with Tim Cecil, who's made a really cool coloring book and written a book, science fiction stuff. So we'll check that out. And we'll see everybody next week for more Most Excellent Entertainment.